on Thursday?
Teachers got. Monday, Thursday.
Ms. Jones said she don't miss that.
No,
She don't miss that, that's what that, she don't miss
Sure
that.
don't miss it now.
Hey, how you doing?
You did right, let's go, you did.
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah.
Did you give them the?
Go ahead, do
Yeah.
Get them steps in.
steps in, yeah. That's all.
I made my move go. Wow, sometimes.
There you go.
My way is. My way is.
I always make time, but
Can't see how they just. It's one other. Maybe both, who knows? They call me, come put us more like you.
well, that's nice.
Congratulations.
I said, oh, he's still there, maybe.
Thank you.
It's got a big pile. It's just a pile.
Oh, where was that?
We still got 1 minute.
Well, I'm gonna go with stuff. I said, if he's still here when I come out, I'll carry it. The light came out. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to City of Loris regular council meeting here at City Hall, Monday, August the 1st, 2022, and it's 6 p.m. I'll give the invocation this time. Lord, thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this city. Thank you for the citizens here. Thank you for the employees. Thank you for our safety and the many, many blessings that we have. Lead us and guide us as we go through this meeting. Help us to make decisions that are for the betterment of the city of Loris. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Massey, can I get roll call, please?
Councilwoman John Estes,
Here.
Councilman Lewis E. Hardy Jr.
Here.
Councilwoman Andrea Cole.
Here.
Mayor Todd Harold,
Here.
Councilman Carol D. Tatum Jr.
Here.
Councilman Michael E. Sutton,
Here.
Councilwoman Jan B. Missouri.
Here.
Okay, we'll get to mayor's report. Samantha couldn't be here. She's filling in at a restaurant for, a sick employee, so she's filling in there, but, she helped us do something, on the city birthday party. Her and, Meredith and Jenna and a crowd did a lot of things, decorating on the outside and the inside, and be hard to do without these people. They just do a fantastic job for us, and we had a very successful birthday party in the city of Lawrence. About, I think the estimate was like 150 people came pass through. Pretty good. The McLeod Lawrence Hospital report, Scott Montgomery told me there's no significant admission increase, and that's holding about the same so far as COVID goes. And the new operating room will be opening this fall. They're also upgrading MRI facilities this fall, winter. So they're continuing to grow in a big way there. Coffee with the mayor will be Thursday, August the 9th at 9 a.m. Thursday, August the 9th at 9 a.m. Not this Thursday, but the following Thursday. We'll have that. Coffee and donuts and just small talk or whatever, just business. But, now we'll hand it over to for the administrator's report.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Just a couple things. I know that the current policy, there's some minor changes I need to make to it due to the state's requirements. The state, they came out last week with some of those. We'll see Robin shake her head too. She knows where I'm coming from. But I will get the committee to meet next week, and so we'll iron out the differences. I know some of y'all have some changes y'all will make, let me know this week or next week, and then we'll try to iron out the differences on that. So I think we're getting close. Putting it together. And that will hopefully conform. My goal is to conform to what the state wants us to do for procurement and procurement policy. Financial procedures policy or financial procedures manual. The state requires us to do that too, which I'll have that listed out there. As that basically what it does is an outline. It coincides with procurement policy, because the financial procedures manual actually gives you the detail of what staff needs to do for internal control. So,
Do we have a copy of that yet?
we do not have a copy. I've got the one I've got from Kershaw County that I put together. So we're in the process of trying to keep.
I just wanted to make sure I hadn't lost it.
No. Yeah, I'll send full council a copy of the financial procedures. It'll coincide. The good part about it is it'll make reference to the procurement policy. It'll say make reference to this section. That way it kind of coincides with itself. What that does is basically say who collects the mail, who opens the mail, where does it go, where's the deposit, what accounts. That's what financial procedures actually. So it just gives you a kind of guideline of internal controls, how internal controls and stuff. So we're very close. We're very close. We're getting it. I know we talked about it. Santee Cooper, we met with them a week or so ago and had lunch with them. And they said they have a grant program that's available that will coincide with our master plan study. We can apply for it this fall. I think what my goal is to go ahead and apply for that grant now, probably in the next couple of weeks. And then in that process, I think we get a reward letter before it in, and then sometime maybe 1st of September, into October, into August, 1st of September, we get a award from Santee Cooper. And then On that same note, I'll probably go ahead and fill out the one for municipal association. Municipal association has to be in by the end of September. I'll submit it before then, but they won't make a decision until after September 30th. So having seen the Cooper, if we can get them to commit to the grant, that will give us kind of some extra points as a great application. So
What is this particular application for?
it's for the master plan study, economic development master plan study.
I got you.
It'll be, Sandy Cooper will give up $10,000 for their program this year and next year. So we may actually qualify twice. I can't get short out, but I know that we qualify for 2022. And then municipal association grants $25,000, and it'll be due by the end of September. I think we'll submit it before then. But we won't get awarded until after September. So we'll have those two grants based on this one's there. Okay, I brought back some information from the municipal association. It's kind of a nice book they put together here, and it shows all the different awards that the municipal association gives out to different ones. We sat on some of these meetings here. We were in Charleston, municipal association, and it shows a lot of different information on there about the different awards and how they got it and what the programs you apply for. I think there's about 3 or 4 of them in here that I think next year we may have a shot at, but at least apply and see what we can do here. And I think we've got some good opportunities. I did meet with some of these towns when I was in Charleston. I also met with them when I was in Greenwood and talked to them extensively about some of the projects here. So I thought this was a nice little book to bring home. You know, I don't know how y'all do, but sometimes I like to take them. I like to have something to take home instead of getting everything through an email. So I kind of like that part of here too. I did give you an outline of what the schedule was in Charleston Municipal Association. We attended a good bit of the project, a good bit of the things, especially the ones that did cost something to attend. Some of the sections did cost. Most of them did attend. There was 3 or 4 of them that I thought was very, very beneficial to me. One was on the second page on policies that were forward moving. I thought that was good for council. I thought the information on the midterm elections coming up, I thought had a lot of good information on that too. I know that they had a lot of good speakers that were on there on page 3. I enjoyed the opening remarks that they had on there. I thought it was very good up here on Friday morning. We had a lot of good information about that, a lot of good information about the cities. One of the best ones that I attended was the one down here where it says 5,000, 20,000 economic development. You can pick one of the 3s, even though our population is not 5,000. I like that aspect because it dealt with economic development. And so I was very impressed about how Mr. Broom laid it out and how he showed how other cities are collecting information and how they're doing economic development. So I got some follow-up information on the council. The legislative roundup I thought was good. Talked about the General Assembly, what policies were coming down from the General Assembly, what was passed this year, what's still on the table for next year. I thought that was some good information there too. And then we did sit in on some of the achievement awards were in this meeting here. And then I thought the last one was good too, election commission rules for municipal elections. I thought that was going to be good too, to see how the state is now interacting with how elections are done throughout the county. So, it was a good meeting. I don't know if you will make it.
Oh, yeah, it was fantastic. I'll tell you, I started out on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. In one class called From Conflict to Conversation. And it sort of names what it was about. But 3 hours later, I got out of that class. I felt like I was back in college again. You know, I was like, wow. But there was a lot to take in. There was lots of networking that you could do, even after the classes. The classes took up a lot of time, but then on your spare time, you were networking with other people and finding out what they did about specific problems that were similar to yours. And it helps a lot to find out things like that in all businesses. But anyhow, it was real good. I think a lot of times we'd be covering 3 classes at the same time. Keith went and he was in a class, and Clay was down there in a class, and I was in a class over here. So we brought a lot of information back So I'm glad we went, and I think it'll prove beneficial in the future.
Yeah,
That's,
even the other night, we should, the League of Cities too, we should,
that's right.
that, a lot of different.
And speaking of that, that Councilman Suggs had a very, very successful League of Cities meeting, this past week. It was awesome. He had a lot going on. You want to say something about that?
Well, we hosted the League of Cities here in Loris last Thursday night. It was the first meeting that all the elected officials have had a chance to get together in person since before COVID started. We had every city represented except Surfside Beach. We had some good food, some good conversations, some good information we shared. And we have 100% attendance from the city of Loris. All the elected officials were there. Clay was there. We had a good time. Appreciate everybody showing up.
It was a big success.
It really showcased, I mean, I want to say it really helped showcase us too, like. I mean,
Yeah, Mike showed them that Loris was
Showed Loris
not
was,
just a little Loris.
We got a lot of good positive things.
Yeah, it was.
Different people.
It was really good. We appreciate that too.
Water sewer rate ordinance, I still got it right here. We're still going through some of the process. If you got any questions, we're gonna meet with, we'll meet with your committee, we'll meet with the Public Works Committee next week. We'll go through in detail, line by line, and we'll go through everyone to see what rates are varying. Actually, get the committee, make a recommendation back to council. So that's okay.
That sounds great to me.
Yeah, please get with me, if you got any questions, we'll be glad to go through, line by line. I know it's been a little bit more, take a little bit more time than we normally do, but I think it's important that we take a hard look at before we raise any of the rates and make sure that the rates are in line with what the increases we're receiving, for instance. So I think the committee will have a good time, sit down and we'll run through each one of the rates, and see, what the increase would be in case you got a certain water bill or sewer bill. This is what you would pay extra based on the rate chart, but you're currently paying virtually what you pay.
Have you scheduled that meeting yet?
We will get it, we will schedule it.
Or we have to work, I assume, 6 o'clock, something like
It'll
that?
have to be Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, maybe. I'll do it Monday, Tuesday, next week, how about that? Yeah, is that good? Okay, we'll send out something. So then
I'm not
they'll,
on that committee, but would you just send notice?
yeah, no, we send you out all the council members.
Because we all have an interest in
Yeah,
this.
no, that's
Sure.
fine, that's no problem, so I'm glad that worked with you. All right, that's all let's see. No, that's good.
Did you get any information as to where the MASC meeting will be next year?
I think so. You mentioned, Executive Director mentioned possible Greenville,
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Greenville or Hilton Head.
Yeah.
It's usually Green, Hilton, and every now and then Charles.
That's what's like, kind of rotated.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's.
Yeah, I think they try to have it there more. Anything else?
That's all I got, thank you.
Let's see, if we have any committee reports from finance and personnel? Public safety committee report? Buildings and grounds? Recreation? Planning, annexation, economic development?
We did not have a meeting, but Clay is working on that application, and also, one of my ELC is working on that plan for us, so, things are moving.
We should be getting back down real soon.
That's right, that's correct.
On public work?
As you know, just heard we will be. That's.
Sir. Okay, in our business, hey, presentation of the 2016-17 audit report by Robin First.
Hi,
Hey, how are you?
I'm delighted to see y'all again. Some of the faces are here from a few years ago, so I'm glad to see you, and some new faces.
This is the audit report for June 30th, 2017. It's a 12-month report from July 1st, 16 to June 30th, 17. So if you look at this report compared to the prior report, you do need to remember that that was 18 months. We have disclaimed an opinion on this report. We've disclaimed an opinion because we didn't have the data, the documentation to support us for making an opinion on these financial statements. In other words, we didn't have invoices to review, the bank statement, we had bank statements, but they weren't reconciled. There was just a lot to do to get to this point because the information on your general ledger was incorrect. So we basically had to go through each bank statement and make sure that what was recorded in the general ledger actually was what happened. So this book is the culmination of that process, and that's why it took a while for us to do it. If you turn to page 3 of the audit report, this is the government-wide statement of net position. The government-wide statement includes all of your assets, including buildings and infrastructure that has been booked, and all of your liabilities, what you owe. Your total assets for the governmental activities, which is everything except the water and sewer funds and the fire fund, is $6,883,069. Of that, a large portion of it is your fixed assets, which is your land, building, and equipment, net accumulated depreciation. Your deferred outflows of resources, you have deferred outflow of resources for your pension, which is $685,000. You have liabilities totaling $3.8 million. Of that, a big portion of that is what you owe to the South Carolina retirement system for retirees' pensions. Now, no one is ever going to ask you to pay that debt. That is the future, that is your portion of the benefits that future retirees who retired from the city of Loris will be receiving. However, our GASB 68 says we have to put your share on your financial reports. As long as you pay the quarterly retirement payment that's on the quarterly retirement report, you're good to go. They're never going to ask you for that. And also there's a deferred inflow of resources of $1,837. The reason you have deferred outflows and resources related to pension is because of the measurement period. June 30th, 17 is your fiscal year end, but your pension is valued at June 30th, 16, where you have to be a year behind on that because we wouldn't have the records ready to do that. And that's the reason for the deferred inflows and outflows. Your net position is $3.7 million in the governmental activities, of which the vast majority is $2.3 million is your net investment in capital assets. What that is your capital assets net of your debt on those capital assets. Your business activities is the water and sewer fund. You had $2.9 million in assets. I want you to look at, of that, the biggest asset you have is 1.9 million, which is the water and wastewater disposal system. Your deferred inflows and outflows are 126,000, and your liabilities are 1.1 million. Your net position in the water and sewer fund or business type activities is 1.9 million. That basically is where you are, where you were at June 30th, 17. That is not, since it's so far back, I can't say if that's prudent or not at this point. But I know that the city of Loris has always had this situation where it has to watch its pennies because you're not that big and it still costs to run a government. So there is a very extensive cost factor of running a government. On page 4, we have what we call the statement of activities. The statement of activities basically breaks your expenditures down by classification. General government, public safety, street and sanitation, cultural and recreation, and interest and other charges. That first column is the total expenses. The second column is the charges for service. Those are charges that we could directly identify that offset the cost of those expenses. And this third column is the operating grants and contributions, leading to your primary government net revenue expense, which was a negative $3.1 million. What that number means is, of the 3.1 million, that's got to come from general revenue. General revenue is tax revenue, state shared revenue, hospitality tax, interest, franchise fees. That's where that money has to come from to offset those expenses. As of June 30th, 17, you had a loss of $1.4 million in the governmental activities. That's not a good thing. I mean, we want to see that number, of course, but part of that's your net pension liability, but we want to see that much smaller. And so basically your net position decreased from 5.1 million to 3.7 million in this fiscal year. In the business activities, your costs were $1.7 million. Your charges were $1.9 million. So you had a net positive revenue of $181,000. So your business activities had a slight increase of $232,000, bringing the net position to $1.9 million. That is the statement of activities for the government-wide statements. If you turn to page 5 of your report, and trust me, I'm not going through the whole report for you, but there's certain things I want to point out. In the general fund, on page 5, you'll see the general fund is the chief operating fund of the city. It doesn't include any of your grants or hospitalities. It's just the run-of-the-mill, regular operations of the town. Your total assets were $2.4 million. Your liabilities were $131,000, and your deferred outflows of resources was $753,000. Your fund balance was $1.5 million. Now, that fund balance is an appropriate fund balance for a town your size, but it does not need to get any lower. That, it meets the requirement of sufficient at June 30th, 17, but it doesn't need to continue to decline. Your grant and hospitality fund, there really wasn't a whole lot of activity in it during this year, and none of that activity had been recorded on your general ledger. So, but we got it on there in the financial statements now. The total assets were $773,000. You had an amount due to other funds of $13,705, and you had a fund balance of $759,000. The debt service fund is basically a fund that collects the money to pay your debt. And it had $74,000 in assets, liabilities of $19,000, deferred outflows. And the deferred outflows is the property taxes. If you don't collect it within 60 days of year end, it's not available to meet current operating expenses, therefore it has to be deferred. So that's a $16,850. So you have a total net fund balance of $38,191. If you look at page 6, this page 6 reconciles the fund balance in the governmental fund to the net position in the governmental activities. It shows where we've added the capital assets. We've added the long-term items such as property taxes and items that are deferred in the funds. And we've subtracted the long-term liabilities, and we've subtracted the pension liabilities. So that's the difference between the two funds. Page 7 is the revenues and expenditures of the governmental funds. You will see that the general fund had $2.1 million in revenue. The grant and hospitality fund had $64,000. Debt service fund, $1. The total was $2,248,000. Your expenditures were $3,887,793. Grant and hospitality tax was $7,675, and your debt service was $58,548 for a total of $3.9 million. Your general fund lost $1.7 million and transferred out $58,548 to the debt service fund. And that was a decrease of $1.7 million. Basically, what's happened is we did not have the data to identify which property taxes should have been in the debt service fund because we don't have the source documents where the revenue came in. Had we had that source documents, your debt service fund would have probably looked a little better. But in the bottom line, it really is not a big issue because once we get that data, we'll show it on the report and correct that going forward. On page 8, this reconciles the net change in fund balance in governmental funds to the net change in position in the governmental activities. It's a line by line itemized list of things that change from the reporting requirements from one place to the other. And in the notes to your financial statement, beginning on page 38, there's a more detailed list that ties into those numbers. The only other financial entity is the fiduciary fund for the agency fund for the fireman's fund, which you had $8,359 in at year end. I'll also turn to page 24. Page 24 is the governmental capital assets. Beginning capital assets, additions, disposals, and ending capital assets, as best we could determine. Keith and I worked on this just from information from the financial statements. We made a list of everything that we thought possibly could be a piece of equipment, and we sent them to him to look at and advise us. So this is where this increase was. Page 25, we have the capital assets of the business type activities. This is what happened in the water and sewer fund. And the water and sewer fund, they're always making improvements, like improving the lines and whatever you improve for the sewer funds. And so, try to stay away from that area. But anyway, it's kind of like my husband said, I sometimes say, I don't do that, no. So anyway, so that's, you had $255,000 in assets and depreciation of $104,000. So that's basically the transactions. The other important information is your debt. On the bottom of page 27, you had 2 USDA community facility bonds that had an outstanding balance of $1,093,000 at June 30th, 17. The principal that's due within 1 year is $20,228. You had capital leases of $167,669 that we were aware of. There's a possibility that there was another capital lease that we didn't have the data on. And if we do get the data in the next fiscal year, we'll do a prior period adjustment and book it. We wanted to go ahead and get a report to you since it had been so long since you had a report. We can always make corrections in the future, but you hadn't had a report in 2019, I believe, when the last one was issued. So I just wanted to get this to you as quickly as possible. You had notes payable of $24,377, and your net pension liability in the governmental funds were $2.3 million. Since you paid salaries in the water and sewer fund and the governmental funds, we have to break that number down accordingly. And so we do it based on the salary expense in each fund, and compensated absences of 48,476. In the business type activities, you have the 2003 refunding bond, you have a balance of 297,813. It should be paid off it should be paid off now. And you have net pension liability of 570,000 and compensated absences of $9,012. Those are the most important schedules that we have. On page 29, we did provide a annual debt requirement summary for you. It's broken down by 5 years and then in 5-year increments until the debt is finished for your information. Normally, your report that we have always prepared provides a lot more detailed, line by line, budget to actual. Because the data looked like it was a little skewed, we didn't provide that in this audit report because we felt like we had to make too many guesses. Okay, let me explain. We totaled up your 941s, that's what you paid in salaries. Well, what was on your general ledger didn't equal that. Well, I'm not a wizard, so we took the difference and we booked booked the expenditures that were not in your report. We did the same thing for your retirement expense, the same thing for FICA. We had to make decisions because during this year report, the payroll was done by 2 or 3 different entities in that period of time, and that created a situation where everything wasn't reported on the books. If you look at the findings, the general ledger and the record keeping has got to improve, period. Every bank statement needs to be opened every month and reconciled to your trial balance every month. Because you only have 30 days to dispute a bank balance. So if they make an error and take money out of your account and you don't tell them, they don't have to fix it. So every bank statement needs to be opened and reviewed and a bank reconciliation done for every single account. That's how your financial statements work. If you get the cash balances recorded correctly and you do the ins and out of cash, then year end is just a matter of booking what you owe and what people owe you for your receivables and your payables. And so that can be facilitated in several ways. First of all, when the bank reconciliation is done, the person who does the bank reconciliation does not need to be the person paying the bills. The person that you have to have these segregations of duties so that the approval process is independent of the sending out money process. And I know that it's very difficult in small towns for that to happen. But if it doesn't happen, you have a segregation of duties issue, and that needs to be corrected. If you look at on page 52, these were the things that we had a difficult time getting. The bank reconciliations, check registers, outstanding deposits list, outstanding checks listing. We had to basically go to the next month and look at the physical checks and see if they were dated before June 30th, which is we shouldn't have to do that. And the same thing with, all of these things listed here are things that happen, and it has nothing to do with probably the current staff, because I don't think they were here during this period of time. So don't, it's not really their fault, but we've got to fix these problems moving forward. I can only attest to what I worked on. But if you can, like journal entries for hospitality fund, 2 journal entries a month would probably record all the transactions. What you got, and from payments, and what you spent. And then the change in receivables, maybe 2, maybe 3. But that would record all those transactions. Nothing was recorded. The same thing for the debt service fund. You had money going into that account every month, but nothing was being reported on the general ledger. We need to get those things recorded on a monthly basis. I know that I've seen in the city of Loris, and I couldn't believe it when I first came here, the old timey journals, handwritten journals that were here. But they worked because someone took the time to take those journals, prepare the journal entries that were needed to get the data into the financial statements. And it was antiquated, but it worked because they worked the system and got the information reported. You're ahead of that as far as keeping your financial statements on the computer, and that's fine, but make sure everything is recorded. Because if it's not, what you've got is information, you're making decisions on bad information, and that doesn't do anyone any good. The other item, the last thing I'm gonna bring up is page 43. Your revenue, your budgeted revenue was $3 million. You only took in 2.1. That's 827,000 shortfall on the revenue. And the expenditures, you had an 876,000 negative variance, like you spent more than you budgeted. That's what created the $1.7 million decrease. So we've got to get your budget and actual a lot closer to moving forward, because it's a picture of your government and your finances. And I don't know whether the budget, because you'd done 18 months the prior year, maybe that's how some of these numbers came about, but we need to correct. We need to make sure that information is, when you're doing the budget, you should include 12 months only in the budgetary revenues and expenditures. Does anyone have any questions for me? And I know this is a lot, and you just got this report. If you want to go through the report and call me back at a later date, feel free to. You've always been able to reach me when you needed me. And I'll be happy to help in any way I can.
Thank you.
Well,
We really appreciate it.
Well, it's just one, but we got more to do, but that's
It
the
means a lot to
start.
have one. Yeah, and the staff does, they've done a lot of those things you're recommending, so.
Yeah.
They're on that.
The software is all implemented will help a lot too, with not intervening here, but starting high school going forward. Because our source documents expand the tie to the others.
As long as it's put in the computer.
That's right.
Long as it's been used.
Well, the approval process, the department orders something, we need to know if there's a budget for it to start with. And if there's not, we got to have, someone else approve it. And so that's an important process that has to be implemented to make sure that everything gets reported properly. I recommend reconciling your payroll register to your general ledger on a monthly basis, if not quarterly, because you don't know if everything's on there unless you test it. And that is so important, especially in this period when you're going from one computer system to another computer system. And I can't exaggerate the importance of checking, of printing out the report and looking at it and see if that number's not right. God gave me a gift a long time ago. Don't know why, but I sure do appreciate it. I can look at financial statements in 10 minutes. I can probably say, well, my number's not right. And I don't know why, but I just have this little knack for that. But if you've got a bank statement and you've got a bank reconciliation, you can just check them off. And then you'll know. And then you won't have to always be concerned that, is it right or is it wrong? You'll know. And that's what I want for you. I want you back where you were.
Amen.
I wanna be there.
And I want you to be able to apply for federal grants that you deserve. Because, you know, you're a wonderful city. And I want you to be able to do the things that you can do to improve the city and apply for these federal grants, but you can't do it until we get all these, financial statements caught up. And thank you very much for letting me do this.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you for doing it.
Did you have any idea when you'll be ready, for 18?
They haven't even given me anything yet. Can't start till I get it.
Thank you very much. We move on to B, we'll discuss, Ford County ARPA grant
Yeah.
application.
Yeah, council, I would, if you flip through the back 4 or 5 pages, it kind of gives you a map, it kind of shows you a map of what we're trying to look at. Horry County's got a program through their ARP monies they got left over, through, like we got money to ARP, they got money to ARP too, to do some outreach projects out in the county and in the cities throughout Horry County. They, talked with Beth, Horry County, a couple, 3-4 months ago. We came up with a project, we looked at a project, what we thought would qualify for based on what we do, what they outlined to us. And what we looked at was running a water line, you can see it from here, connected down from where City Hall is and where the True Value Hardware Store is. Right down there, all the way down, and then coming in and hooking in at 9, and then running out to where the widening part is where 9 is going to be. So what that would enable us to do would be to actually have this part of the system fixed, which we know that 9 is going to be fixed with the widening project. So therefore, this would basically take us in and have the good part of the city doing like this. Horry County's grant program is, I'll show the map. Got some maps and other stuff like that probably too. The cost estimate here, which is also broken down here, shows you 2 back here, is Horry County would go, I think we can fly up to $500,000. And that's what we estimate the cost of the construction part from Main Street to Wall Street, to Walnut Street, water line upgrades, all the line. They've got pictures and stuff in the over here too. That would be around $265. Engineering would be around $38,000. Construction observation would be around $23,000. I asked Hanny Engineering, Ryan, if he would give me kind of an update on what the lead and copper requirements are. They're outlined to us by EPA. EPA is going to want us to have an outline lead and copper inventory to them by 2023. So I asked him how much that he would cost on that. It was around $40,000. The permit fees and advertising fees go along with that in the project there, which would be about $603,795. We could use our ARP money to match the grants. And if we get $500,000 from what we can, which I think we've got, I feel like we got a good shot based on what the requirements and based on what it is. If you read through the grant proposal here, it basically outlines and entails that the water line improvements that we're looking at for this project for old galvanized type systems, and they're out there. We can replace those with PVC, and we'll also fix the lead and copper issues with that. So it's I don't know if we had got it. We were on a very tight deadline to get it by July. I know I'll do something out here the last couple of months. Went ahead and submitted something new, so we at least get on the list, so we don't need to get this together. So I think we're good on that part of it too. So, this will be something next week we'll talk about in the works committee, get the final details of it too. But, has council got any questions or concerns or, you know, I mean, I think it's a good project. It'd be a good upgrade to our system. And it makes a lot of good sense of how we tie it into number 9 and why we do the right program through Lori County Schools. So I think that kind of gave some extra points too, help tying it into the right program too, which I think is important. So, I just didn't want to miss a deadline on the council. Don't be concerned. Don't be too concerned with me. I'm trying to, as you know me, sometimes council, you know, I get pushed up against the deadline, but I think we're trying to move ahead. So next week, we'll get together and make sure if there's any questions or if we want to modify something, we can do it this week.
I definitely would rather go ahead and try to do it and lose the opportunity.
Yeah, I just didn't, I felt like council didn't want me to miss that deadline, so I figured I'd go ahead and at least get something into Lori County. I think that, they seem to be more willing to work with us on this project, and I think it's a good opportunity for us to get some water lines fixed and see good upgrades for what we're trying to do.
When do we anticipate hearing back if we receive that grant?
It will probably be, I'd say, probably in September, probably before we can know. This is the second round of funding. Just to give you a little back update. It's a second round of funding. So therefore, anybody that received money on the first get-go were not eligible this time. So that kind of helped us get a little ahead of some other people. So I think we've got a good shot. I think that's why they actually already came and reached out to us and said, hey, would y'all consider applying for a grant, because we gave money to different organizations on the first year. So this is the second one. So I think we've got, I hope we do. Let's try.
Those shares rates.
Right, we do that. That'd be good with that.
What's your ask?
Anybody else? Anybody got any comments or questions? Thank you, Clay. C, council will discuss purchase of police cars.
The police chief, Chief Bewley was supposed to be here, but he's, I believe, is out of the rec department, helping to assist with the veteran. There's an email here that I have stapled and print off, and has pictures of all the vehicles that we're spending out tonight. And it's his words, you'll see it on here. There's 3 vehicles that they have looked at up at the state surplus, where we've gotten vehicles before. These are actually federal law enforcement vehicles you see in these pictures. They've been very well taken care of because the feds have really strict guidelines to go by. They are outfitted with lights, cages, and such. 2 of the vehicles are matched 2 types of vehicles we already have. We have equipment that would fit on these vehicles already, pretty good equipment. Listed on that first email shows you mileage, what they are, and that we can buy these 3 vehicles at $38,000 versus what we talked about in budgeting about buying 1 brand new. And this is what he is asking to do. So the last vehicle we bought was an Explorer from. It's been a very good car. It's been very well kept up, and it took a lot less time to outfit it. Right now, it's looking about, unfortunately, with the economy right now is looking about, you buy a car for $35 brand new, you're going to spend $20,000 outfitting.
So we're looking at 3 cars
Yes.
already outfitted.
They're already outfitted. There's on minor changes, what there already is in them, in our computer stands. So the last one, that's all we have.
Put our logo on the car.
And of course, that is right. And that's about $400 or $500 to do that. So graphics come up very detailed. So I brought this tonight. He asked me to get it on here and see if y'all could make some motions and vote to see, because these cars will not be held on to, because all the police departments in the state are going to fight over these. But this gentleman here that we dealt with, Told them that exact price, what it would be to get them provided back here. We went and did it tomorrow. And he's got a claim on him until y'all make y'all's decision, but we don't have to let him know the claim goes away.
What vehicles are they replacing, or are they
We
replacing?
have two of the oldest vehicles. It's the black Heat car, which is the SRO car now from the high school.
Right.
It's got upwards of 200-some thousand miles. And the Caprice, they both didn't spend a lot of downtime. We also have another car that's unmarked that's waiting to be fixed, but the fixes would cost more than the worth of the car. So this is what he would like to do, and this would probably get our fleet up and going, where we wouldn't maybe have to buy a car or two for the next 2 years unless something bad happens.
And then those three that we would be replacing would be sold back to the state. How would
That would be up to council deeming reserves, and then we go through a bidding process, so we go to deals. But they also have to be stripped because they have equipment and things. But,
So whatever money we got out of them, we get to keep.
yes, sir.
Right.
And what we have to do is, once the new ones are here, is switch the equipment out,
Which,
vote to declare those surplus and then send them away.
That's right.
Public auction, you gotta do this.
Yep, it is, and it matches all our ordinances. I think it's a really good deal. My background, police cars, and they take a lot of long hours. With these cars here, the feds are very serious with their vehicles. So these are very nice cars that have been very well taken care of.
based on the request from, the chief and speaking with, city administrator about what we budgeted, if council's not opposed and there's no further discussion, then I make a motion that we move forward with letting the city administrator, purchase these three vehicles at the price listed, it's or cheaper, they're available.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Just one question, these are police pursuit vehicles,
Yes, sir.
not just
No,
street cars.
no, these are pursuit rated, so they have.
They're listed, everyone's listed there as intercept.
Yeah. The only thing different between these cars and ours is the spotlight. The feds don't go that route anymore. But the reason why is they create leak issues because they literally are cutting through the hay post. But they are pursuit rated.
We got a first and a second. Is there any more questions? Let's take a vote on that.
I mean, we definitely have the money budgeted for these.
Yes, sir. We budgeted $40,000 to give or take because of taxes and transport fees. You never even find the other cars at. But it was budgeted for.
That'll put us in good shape
For
for a couple of years, like you said.
These three will help, because we originally budgeted just gonna get one, but these three will help.
That seems like a really good deal, but you don't,
You don't get the feds there all the time. They can be tough, they can be tough.
Okay, the first one.
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman John S. Doss.
Yes.
Councilman Louis C. Hardy Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Andrew Bolton.
Yes.
Mayor Todd Harris.
Yes.
Councilman Carol B. Cash Jr.
Yes,
Councilwoman Michael E. Suggs.
Yes,
Councilwoman James P. Biscuit.
Yes.
Motion passes. D, council discuss Watson Park grant.
Got, Tim, you had a question, pardon?
Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely, yes. I asked Tim to come and explain, because I think he and I had this conversation 3 or 4 times.
At a time, we're knocking them out here, knock them out. I just want to come up and make council aware of the rec department's intentions, kind of what we're thinking moving forward. With the staff that I have now at the rec department, we're able to check in on Watson Park daily. And each day we go, it's kind of a thing of all of ours, we like to see it improve, all right? The cameras out there are operational. We think there's a lot of potential out there. So what we want to try to do is, we currently have a 2021 park grant that's open. And in that park grant that was delivered to the state, it was in order to build a pavilion. They had just put in phase 1 of park grant before they had put new playground equipment up. The next phase, they were going to put a pavilion up right next to the playground. We have that beautiful banquet, that building that's standing right there is just, it's awesome on the inside if it's in working order. And one of the issues we have right now is it needs a new roof. So in thinking about Watson, and I've already fielded at least 5 calls this year about people trying to rent Watson Park. I can't rent it to them because it's not safe. We can't, that building, and it cannot be used until we get a new roof on there. So I talked with Clay, talked with Keith, we kind of have discussed things, and what I'm thinking we should do, and I've already asked the people at the state level if this is possible. I think that park grant, we need to shift from building that pavilion to go ahead and using those funds to get a new roof on that building. Because right now, that building's already there, that building has potential, and I think that building, if we start, the fact that we're out there and it's more visible and it's just being used a lot more, I think we need to do that. We need to get those funds to get towards that roof. So that's kind of where I'm thinking of going. I wanted to let council know that in case you all had any questions or had any ideas or anything, that we could kind of think about moving forward in doing it.
Have you priced how much it would cost to replace and repair and replace the roof?
We're in the process of doing that. That's kind of one of the things we were hoping to get. Would council be okay if we started getting quotes for that, kind of getting ideas for that? And that was actually, the cost was one of the things that got us thinking maybe this will be a new roof, because a pavilion was going to be pretty expensive to do. And so thinking about it and talking with others, we think, let's put that money towards the roof, get that fixed so we can start improving that building.
How much money do we have left on the park, the open grant?
So what that part grant is, that particular grant is written, the state needs us to spend at least 21,000 on it, and they'll cover about 17,000 of that. So we would be spending, we still have unspent, this is from 2021.
Can you restate that one more time?
This particular part grant, we need to spend at least 21,000.
The city or the grant is for?
That's total.
The total grant, yeah.
And those park grants are year in advance, so
Oh.
it's actually year 2020.
Yeah, okay. So we're still, that money still needs to be used.
Yes, allocated.
Is there a match for that on our part?
Yeah, right, of that 21,000, we would have to match 20% of that. And so with the 21,000, it ends up being about 4,000. It's gonna be probably more than that, but I just think with what we have going on out there, we have to use it towards Watson. And right now, a roof on that building, to me, is the biggest need.
I agree with you. I think that roof needs to be fixed and that park needs to be taken care of. And when I went by there the other day, and there were 50-something people on that field playing. And my whole crowd full of people on the playground.
Yeah,
People use it.
there's an older gentleman that comes by the office asking for balls and tees to use to get the youth out there. And I just think, again, I've heard from people in town,
Yes,
they
sir.
want to rent that hall and we can't do it, until we get that roof. So I just wanted to,
I'm in favor of you putting out, asking for bids for the roof. I do think that needs to be priority over the building. We need to take care of the facility before we add to it.
And I'm in favor as well.
okay. And then if we can get that phased out, one of my ideas for the 2023 park grant is to go ahead and get some new basketball courts installed out there. I think the public and some of the people I've talked to out there, that would be something that they would enjoy. I've had some people come out and give me ideas and, what we could do. And I think we have a really neat setup that's possible out there if we can get it all planned right. And so that's going to be kind of this year is going to focus on Watson too. Again, so if we can do that this year and then fix it to that roof, I think that's going to say a lot. It's going to send a message that this place is worthwhile. I think a lot of times it gets left behind, and I don't want that to continue. I'd like to see, especially now that we're out there every day, just kind of seeing what's there. We want to make this place be more visible.
That park's got a lot of potential and it's got a lot of history and it definitely needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
When's the deadline to have the, hard grant money that you have budgeted spent?
On the roof project, I believe it's 2024. Yeah, we have time. Yeah,
3
COVID,
months from now, we're getting.
yeah, COVID pushed all the public grants, back, so we're in good shape.
That roof needs to be fixed like yesterday.
Right. Yeah, we don't wanna wait, on it, so.
I'll make the motion then that we instruct our administrator to put together an appropriate bid package for roof repairs at Watson Park. Get all the signs to the deadline, for the bids to be in, and make the council for the bids to be open, and move forward with the project.
Second.
I got a second on that. Let's vote on that. Great.
Councilman John S. Goss.
Yes.
Councilman Lewis C. Hardy Jr.
Yes.
Councilman Andrea Foley.
Yes.
Mayor Todd Harrelson.
Yes.
Councilman Carol B. Patton Jr.
Yes,
Councilman Michael E. Sopes.
Yes,
Councilwoman Jandy Piscopo.
Yes.
Just to add to that, your cameras are now live and active. I gotta work getting them on YouTube because we have to create its own channel. So basically what'll happen is you'll be able to go to that YouTube channel and you'll see what the cameras see. But it does not record that. That's being recorded elsewhere for public officials and law
That's great.
enforcement. So they are active, they're hot, and they're being used. I'm just working with HTC getting all this IT stuff.
So one of us can go over there and wave at the camera and you can see the stuff.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Tim, that's.
All right, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
looks like we need that roof.
Yeah. Rain with the sun, too.
Yeah. All right, we move on to, E. Adopting the resolution 03-22.
Yeah, I've got Mr. Attorney Moss looking at it.
So we talked about these resolutions, I think in the last council meeting, and part of the drive-through program, you've already agreed to include the widening of portions of SC nine and also 701 on the north side of town. Under state law, the DOT can come in and start construction without the city's approval by resolution. And also, the city has to resolve under state law not to impose any traffic control devices in those sections of the roadway to improve them without the DOT written consent. And so these resolutions are in the form required by the code of law of South Carolina under Title 57. And the DOT is waiting for us to approve these resolutions so they can move on to the project. Now, the funding for this project is going to be paid, under the RIDE program. So the DOT is not, they're expecting this to be paid by somebody other than them, and the city's not going to pay for this either. Pursuant to the previous agreement, the RIDE program paid.
Do you have to submit an application or anything to the RIDE program, and if so, have we done that?
There's already an agreement, it's already taken care of.
Okay. So all we as a council need to do is approve these resolutions, so we can go ahead and do what needs to be done, and we'll get our money later.
Correct.
Permit, yes.
That's correct.
I will make sure I follow up.
Please do.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion we approve resolution 0322. And if it's appropriate, 0422, unless somebody has questions. They're all the same, the terms are the same, it's just the location.
This location you wrote.
I second the motion.
All right. Let's take a vote on that.
Councilwoman John S. Goss.
Yes.
Councilman Lewis C. Hardy Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Andrea Cole.
Yes.
Mayor Todd Harrelson.
Yes.
Councilman Carol B. Patton Jr.
Yes,
Councilman Michael E. Suggs.
yes,
Councilwoman Jan P. Piscopo.
Yes.
And that motion passes. Adopt the resolution 03-22, 04-22. The motion is to an executive session, discuss personnel matters and add contractual matters on their discussion on litigation for Rubbin's case on high school property, discussion on economic development matters.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Motion passed.
If somebody gonna bring those resolutions back, we can go ahead and sign those. Executive session.
Yes.
Well, we get it done.
Hey, I'm gonna get a voice.
Did you see that video? Just looking at it.
I know.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Yeah, sure. That's the reason we didn't start with the city and chamber. We don't do is to have festivals.
That can or is.
Spring festival. We used to- we had to- don't feel like it's-
You can do.
That's one on the far side. Over this year, we had to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
This is the, I know that
It's all-
the way it's so bad, it's gonna get-
Spring days, I was here about like that.
You're right, it's all, it's all, that's right. All right, motion come out of executive session, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
No action taken, executive session. Departmental reports. Jordan is sick, so he didn't make it.
Mr. Ron left, but he said that, update y'all, they put in, I think, 3 fire hydrants, one on Church Street, they finished that today. I think they're doing one over in Bayborough Street area, and there's another one, and that's kind of what we're doing, get those in, and then they gotta catch up on fire flows, hydrant maintenance for DHEC, and that's due by September.
It's my understanding that the hydrant maintenance is like, under the gun, gotta go.
Yeah. The DHEC,
Yeah.
but he said that.
You got anything on code enforcement or on?
Just track supplies going. I'm working with Lawson now. We've got something going on, purchasing property that's in the city. So we're working on that, but permits are still flowing in. We just took in 21 new taps and impact fees for 21 new houses. And there's a possibility of 200 homes to be subdivision units too. So once I get that information, something like that, I'll also be following you on.
Within the city limits?
Be careful. The recreation department.
Yeah. I've only got about 45 minutes worth of stuff here. Yeah, right. Just a couple things. So last meeting, all of our baseball all-star teams wrapped up. We had a very successful season. Our 8U coach pitch ended up being the state runner-up. 12U performed well, also won a couple games. They were the final 5 or 6. But what was cool is that both teams won the sportsmanship award. So it was neat. It's a cool looking trophy they brought back to the rec department. But I just thought it was neat that both of them got that sportsmanship award.
Sportsmanship's a big deal, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many of those young men and women are armed now?
Yeah, they are. We've got a good bunch of kids here. Speaking of that, fall sports signups began today. We're attempting to offer football, cheerleading, volleyball, softball. We'll be open through the month of August. Football, I'm gonna have to cut a little bit earlier just for scheduling and equipment purposes and things like that nature. For each sport, we're offering a discounted fee for residents of Loris as opposed to non-residents, so that'll help us out. We finally got a name for our rec mascot. I put a vote out to the public. We had, I think it was over 300 votes, 312 votes or something. And Lacey was the winner. Yeah. After Lacey Hardy used to coach out here. He actually got over half of the votes, so it was pretty overwhelming. Yeah, so that was good. We'll unveil him probably during some football games and things. I've already talked with Greg about being our mascot guy, so he's excited about that. Rec department, we're offering a preseason football clinic for children interested in playing football this season. Our first day will be tomorrow. We're gonna be using the high school practice field. We'll have rec coaches, volunteers, middle and high school players, and coaches are all gonna be involved. It's free of charge. Everyone's doing this on a volunteer basis. Chief Bewley was actually at a coaches meeting that they were having tonight that I have to give credit to Kevin Gauss. It's kind of been a passion of his, and he's sort of spearheaded this whole thing. got the coaches together, and he and I talked, and we have this grand vision, and talking with the high school and B team, the middle school, and we kind of want there to be just a direct pipeline leading to the high school, where what we do in rec translates to what the B team and the middle school is doing, the JV, the varsity, and that way those kids, as they get up there, they'll already know what's going on, will have the right way, and we're looking forward to that. I have a hashtag, I put pause in the pipeline on everything I post, because that's what these kids are. They're in the pipeline towards Loris High School and doing well there. So we're excited about that. Loris we got a good review from Top Gun Baseball. They came out July 14th through the 17th, did a 4-day baseball tournament. There were 7 or 8 other places that hosted a park, and there was a couple days where we had rainstorms and we had issues with fields, and we were the only place that kept playing, and they even moved games from other places to us to take it on. So we were the only ones who could keep going. There wasn't much time in that whole 4-day period where that parking lot wasn't jam-packed. We had a lot of people. We heard nothing but good things. I need to recognize my guys, Woody Henson, Eddie Prince, and Nick Gebhardt for their hard work. The 4 of us were out there probably 40 to 50 hours in 4 days. Just kind of getting things, making sure everything was squared away, the top tone was taken care of. They actually cut a promotional video that I posted on our Facebook page, and I think Keith shared it to the city page.
Oh, it's fantastic too.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. They had a drone flying around getting all those shots, and it was neat. I was excited because you could see the high school football field. And that's looking really nice. I'm excited about that this year. One little cool thing, I went and checked the mail the other day, and we had a player from Clement, North Carolina sent me a thank you card. I'm thinking, okay, thank you for what? Well, he wrote, and you could tell it's, kid writing, it's all messy, and he wanted to thank me for he wanted to thank me for saving him a lot of money. He had left one team, a couple teams had left. He left 2 baseball gloves and some other little canteen thing there, worth a lot of money. I looked up the baseball gloves, and we're talking $100, $200 gloves. And we saved them. We grabbed them. Yeah, that's what I think he was worried about. Yeah. But he wrote me a thank you card, and I thought that was kind of cool. The guys got a kick out of that. So it's just kind of one of the things that I love about Loris is we do the little small things like that, and that was just cool to get recognized by that young man. So nothing but good things about Loris. We definitely were a hit, and we'll have to wait and see for the next one. Good job.
I'm gonna tell you what, you guys have done such a good job out there. You talk about 40 to 50 hours in 4 days, but you're not taking enough credit for what y'all do all the time. Because y'all work like that, getting ready.
Yeah.
And you work like that afterwards, and we appreciate it. I think everybody in here and everybody in Lawrence
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Not a problem.
It looks great, and it operates like a sewing machine.
So well, we appreciate that. Yes.
Man, it's huge when you play and nobody else can play.
Oh yeah.
That is, I mean, that says it all.
Yeah. It was.
We got to go to Loris to play.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was being said.
That says it all.
And it was cool too, because we actually had to go, we partnered up with the high school, and we got their softball field ready, and so it was just neat to have them rely on just that, and having that there. So all in all, it was a huge success.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mayor, can I piggyback on this?
Sure.
This is not directly related to the rec department, but, Loris High School, Mr. we'll have a community pep rally on Thursday, August, 18th at 7 p.m. To get everybody pumped up for the first football game, which is that Friday night, August the 19th. And it's my understanding that Tim will be the voice of the Lions this year for the announcing, so Bill
That's
That's
the plan anyway, yeah.
The scoreboard.
Yeah, that's right. Touchdown.
That's good stuff. All right, thank you, Jan.
No problem. Oh, and just to piggyback over that, if anyone wants to see The new field in action, they're actually scrimmaging Thursdays, open and free to the public. Get on out there, check it out, and then they're having another one Monday night?
We have to check.
Thursday they're playing Myrtle Beach, and then Monday I think they're playing
Marion.
Marion. Those of them are here, yeah, so.
It's gonna be a fast field, I understand.
Yes,
I understand
seems like it.
when a four or five guy runs the 40 on that field, when he gets used to it, he's gonna bump up probably to a 4-4.
Yeah,
Which don't sound like a lot, but it's huge.
yeah, oh yeah, oh
It
yeah.
is when you're trying to catch them.
Yeah.
So my 4-7 is a little bit. All right, thank you. Anything else on that? Police department, fire department, they aren't represented here, but,
I have nothing but stats.
yeah, we got the reports.
The only thing I gotta add is these two things is just for information on. So this is your revenue report that we brought in the month of July. The only thing that shows up here is actually what we brought in, so I'm gonna print off a bunch of codes with zeros. And then this is y'all's expenditures report, so anytime that we pay or spend any money for y'all's, it'll be in this report monthly, and y'all have that. And you'll see the new budget that's been adopted and placed into the system as well. So I know Ms. Jan has been asking for these for a while, and we're able to produce it.
Great. Thank you.
The information I handed out, I'm sorry I missed the public works, but we'll get that on Monday, so we'll be meeting this is a grant program, that the state's putting out, so we'll talk about that.
So you're gonna cover that here in the
Just to get the public works.
Sounds good. We'll move on to, public press comments. Anything from the press? Yeah, Andy?
I just want to say that the twins were great. They ran out of water. They had enough food. The kids were happy. Parents were happy. I was out there taking pictures and look forward to the next week.
Yes, ma'am. Did you get your snowy?
No, I did not. I got paid my regular fries and chicken.
I always get me a strawberry snowy. All right, well, that's all the comments.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if you say it's gonna be in a iron outfit,
For some, if I can't.
oh, it's trash. Hairdresser.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Been good.
It's a short.
Been a little while.
Hannah's been up, so I gotta make me something.
Yeah.
I saw him losing I guess he used to be. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
All right. December 2000.
Ms. Jan Jackson, she didn't have a comment.
Kind of need to be here if you want to say something.
I just want to make sure we got